Kia ora, good evening. I'm Hannah Wilkins. There's something in the water in Queenstown and it's causing a number of people to fall ill. A boil water notice has been in place in the resort town since the start of the week, leaving residents and businesses without usable water, causing some uncertainties.
It's time to bring out the kettle, as Queenstown Lakes District Council issued a boiled water notice to local residents and businesses on Monday evening. The notice was sent out after 15 people fell ill with cryptosporidium in neighbourhoods serviced by Queenstown Council's water supply, which is around 20,000 people. Queenstown Councillor Tony Avery says they've been monitoring the supply since early September, after reports on social media of people falling ill, but upon further testing, they can't find a link between the two incidents.
So we're not sure what the source is, but some of the early indications were from that Fern Hill Sunshine Bay area, so that's where we've really focused. And I think that's where the testing to date has indicated that the water supply might be the common denominator.
Affected businesses such as Hotel St. Moritz have resorted to boiling huge amounts of water in pots, so their guests and staff still have drinkable water. Queenstown Primary School have had to turn off their water fountains, resorting to buying hundreds of dollars worth of bottled water for their pupils. Principal Fiona Kavanagh says she's uncertain whether the school will stay open during the notice period, as the Board of Trustees discuss whether it's a health and safety risk.
Well, ideally I want the school to stay open, as do our parents, teachers and children. As I said previously, that decision has to be made by the board, and they'll have the best interests of everyone at heart.
Since the notice's release, supermarkets have noticed an increase in bottled water purchases, with some even running out of stock before they can resupply. Avery says the boiling water notice will stay in effect as more tests are conducted on the water supply, and is unsure how long it'll last. In Queenstown, the South Today.
A frustrated Dunedin City Councillor is running as an independent candidate in this year's nationwide election in an effort to fight back against the hospital cuts. Councillor Jim O'Malley is looking to take Labour on for the Dunedin seat with some grand plans for the future.
Standing for you and our city. That's Dunedin City Councillor Jim O'Malley's new campaign slogan as he sets his sights on becoming the Dunedin electorate's new MP. The third-term councillor is running as an independent candidate in this year's election, claiming Labour's become complacent, thinking Dunedin's a safe seat.
You can see even by the amount of effort Labour's putting into this election at this point, they'll be completely surprised that I've turned up. They are not normally expecting anybody to take this seat on, and as a consequence, we just don't get treated very well in the 3 years in between each time we give them the tick.
O'Malley's electoral bid has been fuelled largely by the proposed funding cuts to Dunedin's new hospital build, which were announced at the end of last year. But he's also looking to form a new political party by 2033, as he feels Labour's moved too far to the right.
We are now dealing with economic policies that are having impacts across the whole of society that we need to start addressing how we treat each other and really how we fund government and what government can do for us.
If successful, O'Malley would inherit retiring MP David Clark's seat. He'd also stay on at the DCC until a year out from local elections to avoid the cost of a by-election. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Some of the country's top political leaders gathered down south last week for a sparring match ahead of the October elections. The ASB Great Debate in Queenstown was filled with rivalry and big promises from the country's leaders as they worked to solve New Zealand's biggest issues.
4 politicians from the Labour, National Act and Green Party came together in Queenstown for the ASB Great Debate and went head-to-head talking about government finances and New Zealand's economy. A big talking point of the evening was inflationary government spending over the last 2 terms, with ACT Party leader David Seymour and National's Deputy Leader Nicola Willis criticising the current government's overspending. Minister of Finance Grant Robertson and Green Party co-leader James Shaw defended the expenses, saying it was necessary during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Who seem to think that we didn't go through COVID. We did. And most parties said at that time, let's make sure we look after people. We also, Jack, in that period of time, have to respond to events like the cyclone and the weather events.
All parties agreed that affordable rent and housing was a key issue in New Zealand right now, unanimously agreeing that more houses needed to be built. Seymour and Willis added that taxes and rental restrictions needed to be lifted to encourage more landlords.
We need private landlords in this country to provide affordable housing, so we will remove those punitive taxes.
Both Green and National plan to change the tax system, cutting tax for the lower brackets and increasing it for higher earners. Robertson says Labor doesn't plan to change their system, while Seymour says ACT will be releasing their budget in the following week.
And so we're looking at the numbers again, and we are looking at the numbers, and we will put out our new alternative budget with the benefit of the new numbers on Tuesday.
Seymour and Willis are both against a visitor levy in Queenstown, offering alternative routes such as GST sharing and government-funded infrastructure. Robertson says he isn't opposed to the idea and will follow what the local community want. In Queenstown, the South Today.
History has been made in a central Otago township as a 3-year project officially opens with the help of a special guest. Spirits were high for the reopening of the Miniatoto area school last week as it pays tribute to former principals.
The sounds of a haka echoing through the Miniatoto area school grounds, officially opening the redeveloped facility. Governor-General Cindy Kiro was among the guests of honour attending the event on Thursday, acknowledging all the hard work that had gone into the revamp. Principal Melissa Bell is delighted with the new facilities, which has been over 8 years in the making, costing more than $11 million.
It's not only the school, but it's a real sense of celebration in the community, and we really wanted something big and important and special.
Bell also paid tribute to her predecessors for their years of planning, laying all the groundwork into creating the redeveloped school.
We're a small school. It's a little country school out in the middle of nowhere. And to have the Governor-General to come here is the best thing ever.
The Miniatoto area school is now in the final stage of its redevelopment, with works on a new gym and fresh turf currently underway. In the Miniatoto, the South Today.
A week-long series of nationwide protests kicked off in Christchurch on Monday, with climate activists marching on the City Council's civic building demanding justice. The planned event was staged as part of Climate Action Week, as protests and showcases continue for the cause around the country.
These climate activists are calling for change. Dozens of protesters led by youth organisations, School Strike for Climate and Fridays for Future staged a fly-in at the Christchurch City Council's civic building on Monday. They were demanding the council retracts its support for the proposed new international airport at Taras in central Otago. The council owns a 75% stake in the controversial airport, already spending $45 million on land for the project.
We're all here because we are sick of the council talking big about sustainability and meeting their climate goals while also actively investing in projects that are out of line with emissions goals that they've set.
She says they want to see real commitment from the council towards immediate climate action. The protesters also want some councillors to change their positions on the installation of cycleways, which they believe was a really common sense, necessary piece of infrastructure in the city. The fly-in kicked off a week of planned protests set to take place around the country, looking to take action against climate change.
We've got a week coming up, we've got we've got river clean-up, a movie night, we've got a performance piece, but the big thing is that march on Saturday, the Vote Climate March.
The week of protest in Christchurch comes to a climax with the march over the weekend, with Climate Action Week finishing up on Sunday. In Christchurch, the South Today.
Whaiakane still to come on Southern Newsweek. Chinese culture is on display in Dunedin for a traditional festival spanning back 3,000 years. And a West Otago couple are climbing their way to the top of the farming world, gunning for a prestigious award. Tēnā koe, welcome back. It was a cultural melting pot in Dunedin last weekend as a celebration brought people together from all over the world. The Chinese Mid-Autumn Festival had colourful performances and music taking centre stage, with something for everyone.
A celebration of cultures hitting a high note in Dunedin. The Chinese Mid-Autumn Festival brought together a range of multicultural performances on Saturday for a traditional celebration dating back more than 3,000 years. The performance was held at Trinity Catholic College with the vibrant acts showcasing different cultures and talents in Dunedin.
It's bringing people together. It's all about bringing people together and celebrating all the different cultures and traditions that we have in the city.
Ackland says the Chinese community are very important people in the city, with their ancestors immigrating to Otago almost 200 years ago during the gold rush.
Well, the Chinese community in Dunedin goes back a long way, as we all know, and to continue that cultural journey and to celebrate amongst all peoples of Dunedin is fantastic.
The festival rounded off Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori Language Week, which saw kapahaka performances from local high school Columba College.
To friends from all walks of life who care and support the Chinese community in Dunedin. And I wish our fellow Chinese live in peace and happiness in this beautiful city of Dunedin.
Otago and Southland Chinese associations performed a myriad of traditional dances, but are now setting their sights on the Chinese New Year, with celebrations taking place in February. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Southland's only New Zealand men's handball player is on the lookout for some future talents looking to grow the sport in the region. The national team athlete is taking matters into his own hands, calling for people to join him on the court for a public open day.
Aston Lang shooting his shot, hoping to grow the sport of handball in the Southland region. The left back is hosting a handball open day at the ILT Stadium in Invercargill on Saturday, looking to attract some young athletes. Lang says handball gives people who don't play traditional sports like rugby, football or basketball a new outlet to get involved with.
Sharing handball with Southland is about introducing a new sport with a new culture that we can decide on, and being able to just share the enthusiasm, the passion and the pride that comes with it.
He's helped many young players from the Otago Handball High School League grow, with some even progressing to play for the national team. Lang's proud of being the only Southlander to be a part of the New Zealand squad and hopes to inspire the youth to take up the sport.
I think it's really important that with new sport in Southland, that there is someone representing the region on the national level, on the international level, and actually there does exist a pathway to becoming an international representative for New Zealand in this sport.
Lang's hoping the Handball Open Day will not only attract more people towards the sport, but also raise money for his team to compete at the Asian Handball Championships in January next year. In Invercargill, the South Today.
Nominations are flooding in for the Otago Daily Times and Rural Life Year of the Farmer initiative, celebrating the South Island's food-producing superstars. 5 finalists are now being announced, including a West Otago couple who were recently voted as the Rural Champions of Heriot.
It's a busy time of the year for Stefan and Holly Ralston, tending to their cows as calving season gets underway. The married couple have been named as the finalists for the Otago Daily Times and Rural Life Year of the Farmer, which celebrates the South Island's top food producers. Their farming operation, Toropuki Dairy, stretches across a 540-hectare farming area near Heriot, running beef cattle and milking around 820 cows. Stefan says his farming philosophy centres around leading his team from the front, insisting he's not afraid of getting his hands dirty.
I think treating staff good, I get the best out of them. I want jobs done properly and not quickly. And I'll do all the jobs that I expect the workers to do.
The couple run the company together, with Stefan focused on the hands-on jobs, while Holly deals with all the bookwork, also lending a helping hand with the calf rearing. But their farming journey hasn't always been smooth sailing, with Holly facing many challenges as she gave up her urban lifestyle when she moved from her Dunedin home.
It was hard in the beginning, coming from town to the farm and adapting to life here. But once had kids, there's a great group of girls here who I would be lost without.
And if farming wasn't enough, Holly has her own cookbook that was recently published, while Stefan's also a volunteer at the local fire brigade. They're one of 5 finalists in the Year of the Farmer initiative, vying for a $10,000 prize pack, with the winner set to be announced at the end of next month. In West Otago, the South Today.
Two Queenstown bodybuilders have got the national call-up after their stellar performances at a tournament last month. The pair will be making their way across the ditch, hoping to bring some gold that isn't just their spray tan.
No muscle left untrained. These two Queenstown bodybuilders are putting in the work ahead of the Oceania Champs. Audrey Tendrin and Megan Duncan were selected to represent New Zealand after competing at the regional Hawke's Bay tournament last month. Tendrin took home 3 silvers and a gold in the bikini and sports model categories, sweeping her first ever event, while Duncan took home bronze in the competitive classic figure category, qualifying to compete in Australia for the second time.
And then with classic figure, it's more about creating that X shape. So kind of wide shoulders, small waist, and then kind of on the lower half. So they look for the X with some more definition than the bikini class.
The pair both took up the sport as a way to see how far they could push themselves, both finding huge success in the short amount of time they've been training. Tendrin says she's had to make a few sacrifices for bodybuilding, having to shift her passions of dance and aerial silk work to the sideline.
That would have been way too much on my body, on my recovery, on my energy levels to keep doing all of this. Therefore, I've just put it aside to really give my everything to bodybuilding this year. And I miss it deeply, but I'm glad with what I've achieved this year.
The pair will first be heading to Hamilton to compete in the ICA New Zealand Nationals next month, before heading to Melbourne to compete at the Oceania Champs a week later. In Queenstown, the South Today.
FI Yakane still to come on Southern Newsweek. A Central Otago fire station reaches and celebrates a very special milestone alongside a dedicated volunteer. And adopting a furry friend is on the decline nationwide, with some young Dunedin pups still looking for their forever homes. Tēnā koe, welcome back. Ranfurly is home to the second largest volunteer fire brigade in New Zealand, which celebrated a number of milestones last weekend. The Central Otago Fire Station rolled up its doors to the public, putting on a show so locals could see the firefighters in action.
A powerful stream of water showcasing to locals what these firefighters can do. Ranfurly's fire station welcomed in members of the public on Saturday, celebrating the Volunteer Brigade's 75th Jubilee. But it wasn't just a day of commemoration for the station, with senior firefighter Ewan Mason also marking 50 years of service to the Maniatoto.
There's been some incredibly tragic incidents which, in a most bizarre way, leave you with quite a sense of fulfilment in that you've helped other people.
Around 70 people turned out to see the firefighters in action, getting a tour of the station along with a fire hose and car cutting demonstration. Chief Fire Officer James Hazlitt says their job isn't just to put the wet stuff on the hot stuff, with the brigade continuing to improve their work with new technology.
The one thing that the world needs is the idea from the people of volunteerism. Our communities can't exist without volunteers.
Firefighters have also been responding to medical events for the past 30 years, with Hazlitt believing the Volunteer Brigade will always be adapting to continue helping a changing community. In Ranfurly, the South Today.
While our furry friends may look cute, an animal protection organisation is grappling with a nationwide issue in the midst of declining demand for dog adoptions. SPCA Dunedin has a growing number of puppies, and staff there are looking forward to finding some forever homes.
Looking for their new forever homes, these young pups have been patiently waiting at the SPCA for over 2 months. Atlas, Aries and Nova are a set of siblings who've been staying at the Dunedin Centre, still hoping to be welcomed by a new owner. Canine team leader Gemma Mitchell says the trio had come from a rough background and haven't had a lot of social experience.
They started off, couldn't touch them, roll on their back, kind of scared, and now they're starting to be brave, go out and explore the world.
Mitchell says canine adoptions have drastically dropped since the previous year, with dogs staying at centres around 20 days more than they usually would. SPCA is now looking to reduce pet adoption fees across the country, hoping to help puppies like Atlas, Aries and Nova find their new home.
We are offering 50% off adoptions for all dogs and puppies. It's just to kind of give people the push if they are they're already looking at adopting a dog.
The initiative is set to start on Saturday through until early October, with the SPCA hoping to make more room ahead of the busy kitten season. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A Southlands couple are preparing to take part in an annual parade, but it isn't just a typical walk in the park. They'll be trotting along in the Otago Goldfields cavalcade, taking hundreds of horse riders from across the South Island on an adventure through some rural trails.
Fasten your seatbelts or horse harness, getting ready to buckle up on the winding trails to Waikaia. Gore couple Blair and Sue Lennon are taking part in the upcoming 31st Otago Goldfields Heritage Trust Cavalcade, riding with their Clydesdale horses, Flash and Harry. The duo have been driving a covered wagon on the cavalcades for 8 years, finding the week-long journey to be a great social occasion.
It's just a great time. You don't see some people from year to year, and it's always good to have a catch-up and a laugh. And you get around the countryside too, especially about Waikaia this year. It's local for us.
Event organisers have prepared a range of different trails for the horse lovers to trot along, which will all converge to the small Southland town.
It's a good community up there. It's good to go up there, and they're definitely supporting us on it. They've got in and make some good trails up, and going to look after us well.
Blair and Sue are looking forward to taking part in their 9th Goldfields Cavalcade, with the week-long trek set to start in late February next year. In Gore, the South Today.
A group of actors dressed as fishermen were seen near Port Chalmers earlier this week, filming for an upcoming festive commercial overseas.
Auckland production company Flying Fish were in Dunedin on Monday, filming these actors playing a fisherman's family making their way along a Carries Bay wharf. Around 100 people were seen working on set, with a number of large trucks assisting the crew, carrying costumes and filming equipment. The production company is currently filming an ad campaign for a major British pharmacy chain, following on from their Bring Joy for All this Christmas theme from last year. The previous Boots Christmas ad campaign featured BAFTA-nominated actress Lydia West and was screened across multiple platforms. The crew had spent most of last week in the Queenstown Lakes district, filming in Cadrona's Snow Farm, Glenorchy and Arrowtown, before making their way to Dunedin. In Dunedin, the South Today.
That wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news and videos from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. And you can follow Channel 39 on YouTube and the South Today NZ on Facebook to catch our news bulletins on demand. We'll see you again next week. Mā te wā.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.